Welcome to the Martech Cube Let's Talk podcast. With the Martech space evolving at a phenomenal level, it gets extremely rattling to keep track of each and every update on both the Martech stack as well as marketing knowledge treasury. In such excruciating times, the advice from the Martech mavens comes in handy. Martech Cube's Let's Talk series is just that knight in the shining armor and focuses on a range of topics from the Martech arena. We bring in the industry mavens to venture out your queries on the same space, get insight, tricks, trends, and practical know-how from the top minds in the marketing technology space. Tune in now. In today's podcast, we are going to discuss the journey of Martech into the internal marketing world. We will also be focusing on the shelf life of content and how content marketers can keep up with the joys of driving value and maximizing traction in the same parallel race.
There are two different things going on there. There's this notion of timeliness, and there are certain content sources that is their claim to fame. It's timeliness.
There is this growing sense of urgency that had started developing for just creating content and putting it out there as soon as a trend locks in. We are also going to focus on the current burning topic of the pandemic's effect on the marketing sector, while we try to understand why marketing needs to be humanized now more than ever. Our guest for today's podcast is Scott Brinker. Scott is currently the VP Platform Ecosystem at Hubspot. He also publishes Chief Marketing Technologist blog, which is known as the chiefmartech.com, and is the program chair of the very successful Martech conference series. He's the author of the book Hacking Marketing, which is published by Wiley. Previously, he was the co-founder and CTO of Iron Interactive. He has degrees in computer science from Columbia University and Harvard University, along with an added MBA from MIT. Scott is what we term and known as the ultimate Martech guru, as his work not only helps people across the world to take a smarter approach to choosing and implementing Martech, but also in maximizing marketing technology. Welcome to the podcast, Scott.
Hi, thank you for having me.
So while I was doing my base homework for this podcast, I realized you are one of those people who ventured into their hobbies and found a tunnel to link your passion to your career. I would really like to know what your journey was like from the gaming industry into the marketing world.
Yeah, so for me, starting in multiplayer games many years ago, it was kind of a weird mix of, I guess, three things. Just as a young person at the time, I obviously enjoyed games, and so creating your own was kind of the next cool thing to do. I certainly also enjoyed the art of software development. So I originally started out as a software developer, software engineer. But then, anytime you're going to be in the mode of creating something, whether it's software or anything else, right? The next question becomes like, okay, well, how do you let the world know about that? And so, that sort of entrepreneurial energy naturally directed itself into marketing. And over time, I became really fascinated, by the art and the science of marketing as a profession. And then, what happened is my two loves, the world of software and the world of marketing, really, man, over the past 20 years, they've just entwined so deeply with each other. The business of marketing is such a software-driven business at this point that... I feel like one of those lucky people that, the two things they love, have come together like peanut butter and chocolate.
That's an interesting combination. Also, I ventured into the Martech space in the last 2 to 3 years. I was into analytics and everything before that. So my prime source of information about Martech, as soon as I Google Martech, the first thing that comes up is what is Martech from chiefmartech.com, then Scott Brinker, and then his infographic and the landscape. So these things, like, this is my basic, I think this is anybody's basic introduction to Martech. So I wanted to know, while my prime source of information about the Martech stack and the companies that are catering to the Martech stack came from referring the industrial landscapes that you have created. So I wanted to know, while you ventured into the infographic creation, was it to viscerally communicate the massive tech domination that the marketing world had started to see around 2011?
Yeah, so certainly I remember very clearly when I put together the first version of that slide, I was going to be giving a presentation to a group of CMOs, and I was trying to persuade them that they should think about hiring more technical talent onto the marketing team. This idea of having like a marketing technologist, or what now has become for a lot of companies a part of the marketing operations pillar. And so I put together the slide really just as a way to, help them appreciate, like, look at how many different capabilities are now a part of the marketing mission. All this software that you're now relying on to deliver your outcomes, to achieve your objectives. Given all that, and recognizing, like, okay, all this software is, such an integral part of marketing now, doesn't it make sense to have someone who can really be your right hand, your leader of that Martech stack? And so that was the original slide. And I mean, it was only 150, some odd tools at the time. But even that, I remember being like amazed by it, like, wow, 150 different technologies. This is huge. And then the path that's taken over the past 10 years, where the landscape has really grown exponentially. I don't think I would have predicted that, but I think in hindsight, you look back and you see, like, okay, well, this is just the natural evolution of, how did Mark Andreessen put it? Like, software is eating the world. Just like software is everywhere. Everything is software. So it's been an interesting journey.
Exactly. It is. And the massive boom that we have seen with Martech, it's unbelievable. If I especially compare the first infographic and now, it has grown in like dimensions that we cannot imagine together. Also, we have been following chiefmartech.com for a long time. Like, I take a lot of my references from there, and I have been reading. Mostly I read all of the articles that is put out there. So one thing that I have always observed, that chiefmartech.com has produced a very different stream of articles, even though they are focusing on technology. A very recent read for me has been an article which is named "Martech is Meaningless Without Our Humanity." And that was a phenomenal read. So I just wanted to understand, what was your thought process before penning out that article? And also, why do you think that humanizing the marketing aspect is really important?
Yeah, well, I'm really happy to hear that that article resonated with you. It was a very personal one for me, where, I mean, 2020 has been a really hard year for everyone. Obviously with the pandemic, but here in the U.S., really a whole bunch of challenges around social justice that have long been problems, but really came to the forefront. Over these past months. And it just is very humbling for me to realize that there's a lot of work to be done here. I think sometimes, being a techie, I sometimes get a bit, what would be the word, like myopic almost, and like, oh, okay, well, here's what's happening in the innovation, and wow, isn't this cool? The world is, a wonderful place. And to sort of step back and realize that, wow, there's a whole bunch of other aspects of how, our society is working, and, how the world is developing that need attention too. And I spent a lot of time, reflecting on what I wanted to do to be able to, just apply my energy better in that direction. And so, sharing that post was, Yeah, I'm happy it resonated with the audience. I hope it helps.
It did. It resonated very well with me because generally, like, we are into the tech space, and marketing is it's so time consuming that we are chasing behind pieces of content and how to derive value from it. Sometimes I think we forget that there is a total humanizing component around it as well, and we can maybe work towards that as well.
Yep. And I think that is, the connection to the broader, Martech, world that I'd like to think I know a little bit better, is like, all this automation, that not just marketing technology, but, certainly Martech is a big part of this. There's a lot of power in this, and there's a lot of way of making it can make life more efficient for companies. It can even make experiences better for customers. But at the same time, it's really easy and dangerous to let some of these automations, and these AI-controlled patterns, run amok without recognizing that, wow, okay, no, the way algorithms work and the way, human beings, thrive together. There are gaps there, and a big part of our role in Martech really needs to be, I think, being aware of those gaps and helping identify them and fix them, and not let people get too carried away on the automation at the expense of what makes us happy employees, what makes us happy customers.
Exactly. I work as a content creator and content marketer. Now, I have observed from how much ever years I have been into the content marketing space that there is this growing sense of urgency that had started developing for just creating content and putting it out there as soon as a trend locks in. So do you think that content marketing or content creation of late has inclined more towards mere SERP rankings than driving actual value for the readers?
Yeah, I mean, it's hard. It's, like anything, there's like a distribution curve of how people do this. And I think, if you look at the top end of the distribution curve, you would say there are people who do both, right? They're both catching timely trends, but the work that they're doing to contribute there is incredibly valuable. And like, readers get a lot out of it, and, that works really, really well. But then, further down the distribution curve, you definitely have other folks who, it's just, it becomes about, like responding, like the newsjacking, to a trend, and it's very almost mechanical, and cranking things out. And I think not only is there not a lot of value in that, but one of the just challenges to it is anybody can do that. In fact, right, software and automation now is, makes it, easier to do that at scale than ever before. And so if you're just doing the mechanics of it, I think it's really hard to even get that to work for you as like, top page of the SERP. So I think I guess I would say it this way is I think there's a lot of art and science to content marketing. And the people who are really doing it well, they deliver tremendous value to the audience because they understand that's how they actually win. Like, that's the real goal, is to have an audience person, a reader be like, wow, that was awesome. Thank you.
And I think marketing is the only field where you get to combine your art and science together and create something amazing in that sense.
There is such a wonderful blend between like sort of the left brain and the right brain, and the fact that you can do this in marketing and people pay you for it. It's a wonderful career. I love marketing. I admire marketers.
I want to shift the focus to the shelf life of content as well. I feel that the shelf life of each and every piece of content is decreasing with each preceding day. So how do you think that content marketers or a dynamic content-driven publication like that of ours, Martech, how do you think we should go about in in either increasing the shelf life of the content piece or maybe in trying to derive maximum value with each and every content piece? Do you have like some quick fixes that, all of the content marketers can jump into to try and save themselves from this misery?
I like the way you close that question out. Not that
the
that's
pain is real.
Yeah, I don't know if there's a quick fix, but I think there are two different things going on there. There's this notion of timeliness, and there are certain content sources that is their claim to fame. It's timeliness. Like, okay, listen, I want to get what's happening now. It's almost like, news, but it, might be not just news. It might be a perspective. It might be, something a little more qualitatively different there. But the real value is like, okay, it's a stream, right? Like, you're not going to go back to the stream and see what that person was talking about like a month ago, because that's past. What you appreciate is, what's happening, really in the present. And I think that's one kind of content marketing. I think there's a different kind of content marketing that is really looking to create these reference points that are going to, by their very nature, have a longer shelf life. And they tend to be longer pieces. They tend to, have a lot more work that went into, the
creating,
research. Yeah. I mean, in fact, like my Martech landscape with all those logos on it, in some ways, to me, that's, I can't say I planned it that way, but, that's become one of those pieces where that's a really evergreen piece that, having it as the reference slide for the industry, has been just enormously, helpful for me in building my audience. And so I think, there's so many things happening in the world that people are looking for an expert to help explain and give them a resource that they can turn to. And so, I think that is also a very compelling content marketing strategy. Which content marketing strategy should you adopt? I think it kind of depends on, your audience, your strength, but I'm not sure either one of those is a quick fix. Both of those are pretty hard to execute well, right?
Yes. But I still think that the focus should be on evergreen content only, because that's going to help everybody in the longer run at the end.
I think that is the more differentiated, because almost by its very nature, you have the time you can invest in the development of the content to make it really special, versus when you're in that sort of, like real-time news stream, because you've got so much time constraint, there's really only so much depth you can offer, on, that content. And as a result, it's perhaps easier for other people to copy that. Again, it almost becomes, as we were saying earlier, a little bit of that mechanical process that is perhaps a little bit harder to differentiate or, sort of defend against some other content marketer trying that exact same playbook on you.
Exactly. Also, with the current state of pandemic that we are in, marketing has seen a visible slump. But do you think that this slump will ultimately mark a phase shift for marketing with respect to its recovery and hitting a probable golden age for Martech maybe?
Yes, I think, being respectful that, we still aren't on the other side of this pandemic. So I want to be careful that, I don't want to be overly optimistic and I don't want to be overly pessimistic. I think we're just in a moment right now where, the world is still trying to make its way through this crisis. And so, it's hard to predict exactly what, the exit from this crisis is going to look like and how long it's going to take. But that being said, I think one of the things we've seen from the pandemic is this realization by so many businesses that they really need the ability to connect with their customers in the digital world, because you never know. I mean, I'd like to hope this is the last pandemic, the world ever faces, but it may not be, and I think even if we face other crises like this in the future, even in the days when, we have the ability to travel and meet people and do stuff in person, the efficiency of being able to do more and more things, over digital channels when we want, I think a lot of companies are realizing there's a lot more value there, and it's a lot more accessible than, they maybe previously thought. And so I think all of that sets up an environment where Martech, which is very much a collection of tools and capabilities to empower companies to have that ability to engage with their customers through these digital channels, to have a distributed workforce that's, managing that marketing and sales infrastructure. All those things are basically in the favor of saying, the next 10 years for Martech could be just, an incredible, second golden age.
Yeah, hopefully, we hope so. Also, in terms of the marketing requirements, do you think that the marketing requirements are going to change after the pandemic? And if they are changing, what aspects of these requirements do you think would be scary and exciting for the marketers in the upcoming times?
Yeah. Again, I think the pandemic, I don't think it fundamentally changed the way things are headed. I think it's more that it's just kind of accelerated it. And I think, the challenges that we know we're wrestling with in the marketing and MarTech community is the technology is getting more complex. And I you hear me hesitating in how I say this, because there's kind of this weird thing happening where on one hand, software for the most part is actually getting easier to use. User experience design has become a much more mature field. A lot of the products that you can now buy as a marketer, they're really well designed. They're like so much easier to use than, what MarTech used to look like, like 10 years ago.
Yeah.
But even while individual tools are becoming easier to use and more accessible, there are so many different SaaS tools that companies are connecting together, and there are so many different digital touch points that customers, are engaging with us, that the interaction of all these different tools and touch points is it is a more complex environment. And so I think that's, on one hand, going to be a great source of innovation and success and competitive differentiation for companies. On the other hand, I think it's going to be a really challenging process to figure that out.
I think so too. Also, I really wanted to know, your super graphics are the thing. Whenever they release, it's like everybody knows that Scott Brinker super graphic has released. So I just wanted to know that, how do you go about marketing your super graphic? Like I obviously know there are some secrets. I just wanted to know your basic approach towards putting out any piece of content, and how do you spread the word around it?
Oh boy, it's a good question. And I'm afraid my answer is going to be probably very disappointing, which is, I don't do a lot. To be honest, I'm a terrible content marketer. For the most part, I would say 90% of my energy goes into the creation of the content.
Yeah.
And then maybe only about 10% is like, okay, well, how do I make sure I get this distributed? And, I do a certain amount. I do a lot of, webinars and podcasts. I'll do, a lot with social networks around it. But the truth is, I don't do anywhere near as much as I could or probably should. I would not hold myself up as an example of a great content marketer. I think, I probably have a lot to learn from people who are much better at it than I am.
Oh my God, I really would like to be just as terrible as you, I would say. If this is the level of terribleness, then I would really love to be there. Okay, Scott. Coming to my favorite and my last question, what would be your go-to quote for any situation in life, like with marketing, without marketing, in life? What's your go-to quote or a go-to saying that has always resonated with you?
Oh, wow. I love this question.
It's my favorite question too.
Yeah, so there's a quote from Shakespeare that's always sort of stuck with me, and it goes something like, "There is more in heaven and earth than is dreamt of in your philosophy." So I might be mangling that a bit, but this sort of idea of, I kind of feel like it's so easy for us to have like a worldview of like, okay, we know what is happening. Like we have a worldview of like, okay, this is what's possible. This is how something should be done. This is the best practice. This is what's going to work. This is what's not going to work. And I think the thing about that quote that always makes me pause and reflect is like, we don't always know as much as we sometimes think we do. And I think this willingness to just constantly have an open mind to, wow, there's maybe more possibilities here than I've been considering. And I find every time, like when I feel like I'm stuck in a corner between like, oh, no, you don't have any choice. You kind of have to do X. Which can be a very uncomfortable place to be. I find that if I can just really step back for a moment and say, really, is there no choice? Or is there perhaps a broader set of choices than, I was originally considering? Almost every time I'm like, yeah, actually there are a lot of choices. There's a lot of different ways to tackle this. And so it's maybe a bit of an optimistic view on this, but anyway, that's what inspires me.
That's amazing. I think I have this one. This one is from Hamlet, I suppose. I have read this quote. It was like it has resonated with me as well for quite some time since I was reading Shakespeare in high school. But yeah, it's sometimes as if we fix ourselves in a mold and we just don't want to get out of it. So it's really nice to just step back and see the situation and then resonate as an outsider.
It's the beginner mindset, as they might say from Zen. Yeah, that's just there's some wisdom of the ages here that we can all learn from.
Okay, we have covered an entire spectrum here, from marketing to content marketing to pandemic to the way of life. So I would say that this was rather inspiring, and this marks us to the end of our podcast. Thanks a lot for joining us for this wonderful session, Scott. We really look forward to hosting you on Martech Cube in one way or the other very, very soon. And we really hope that our audience enjoyed it. And I really hope that you enjoyed it as much as I did. And I really hope to see you again soon.
Awesome. Thank you so much for having me.
Thank you, Scott. Please stay safe and stay vigilant. Thank you.
All right. Bye.
Bye-bye.